I see you now. Awesome.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining us.
There we go.
Oh, thank you for having me.
There are a ton of people have been in my community been super excited to have you on. So I really appreciate you being here. The reason why I wanted you, I wanted you for this topic specifically because and this is, you might not even remember this, but I was watching your stream because Thought Time is a YouTuber chat. I know a lot of you are huge fans, so you probably don't need to be told this, but also does a Twitch stream. And I was watching Thought Time's Twitch stream one day, and somebody in your chat was asking you, how do you keep like an optimistic perspective? How do you not just like want to give up? And you gave them a really nice answer that I never heard from anyone before. Usually when people ask these questions, they're like, oh, well, everything does suck. And you know what? And they have this kind of grumbly response. And by the way, I don't blame you. I don't blame anyone for having that response. It doesn't make you a bad person or a weak person. It's kind of like the expected outcome. I mean, it's really excruciatingly hard on your own to come up with a reason to feel like anything is optimistic. But anyways, you gave a good answer, and it has something to do with, take breaks, make sure you're taking care of yourself, so on and so forth. And I thought it would be fun to have you on to talk about this further because, I don't know, it was really, that stuck with me for a really long, like I talked about the next day in my stream. I know it was probably a throwaway comment for you, but I talked about it the next day in my stream, and I was like talking about how excited I was to like see someone that actually acknowledges the feelings that we have, the doomer. It's necessarily really hard to be optimistic, but also being like, take care of yourself. There's no need to. There's a lot of conversation that I've noticed around, especially when the George Floyd protests began. That was basically along the lines of, if you're feeling like this is overwhelming and hard for you, well, that's your privilege speaking, because some people have to live in this every day and they can't take breaks, which is honestly true. That is true. But it doesn't account for, it doesn't account for like how that's not a solution to have everyone be equally exasperated and in danger and, feeling like they are hanging on by an absolute thread. I don't think that that's the solution. And although it is an unfortunate reality that is in fact the case, it was really nice to see somebody acknowledge that feeling of exhaustion and be like, yeah, no, you should take breaks. Actually, it's okay. You should. And yeah.
Well, this is an extension of my larger philosophy. Just in general, I'm a proponent of taking breaks for just about anything that frustrates you. The example I always use is before I married my wife, I was putting together her bed at her new apartment, and we couldn't figure it out. It was too complicated, and we'd been doing it for hours. And I said, okay, let's take a 5-minute break and come back to it, and we'll figure it out then, and it'll be easier because we won't be so frustrated. And she was like, no, we only have one weekend to get all of this put together. Like, we don't have time to take a break. But I know from experience that if you take the time and just go take the break, let yourself rest, and then come back to it, you will get it done faster. And I think the danger is that indulgence of self-care as a tuning out.
Yes.
You have to tune out sometimes. The tuning out is how you recuperate from the rest of the time that you spent tuned in.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot on my stream because I'm vegan. I talk about it with regards to like trying to encourage people to be vegan, and I'm like, listen, we all have we are on different paths. We have different monetary capabilities. Some of us are in food deserts, some of us aren't, some of us we all have our limitations. And by the way, if anyone's not vegan here, I don't care. You don't have to tell me, oh, I can't be vegan. I don't care. I'm so used to this reaction from people. They try to get me to to acknowledge that they can't. So I go, okay, you are allowed. Be quiet, please. But I'm like, you gotta
get the V pass.
Yeah, get the V pass. Yeah. But I'm like, listen, we all have our limitations. We all are on our journeys and so on and so forth. But there's you trying to be honest about that, and then trying to still live according to your values. And then there's the other side, which is there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so therefore I get to like kill my neighbor's dog or and have slaves. It's just like you can't just like you can't just like logic yourself out, because you like, be honest, like what you're saying, like there's taking breaks, and then there's just like, well, we have to take breaks or else we're all going to get burned out. And then it's just never, just always not doing anything or caring, which is just, that means we just have to kind of be honest with ourselves, chat. No liars.
I know that I've said it many times in my career, but I have come to truly detest the phrase, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Oh my God, I have too.
It's definitely something that has been like, it's like people take it the exact wrong way, you know? It's like instead of it's like people just treat it as like, oh, why try? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, that's the opposite.
Like, I saw a really good explain. It was basically like, you know how The Good Place ended? Like, you know, the big problem
I didn't, but you can say it.
I haven't seen this.
That's why I'm saying it's
spoiler-free.
Tell me when you're done, do this.
Tell me the
yelling
spoilers.
at me. I'm saying the spoiler-free version.
You just said how it was gonna end. Okay, sorry. What?
No,
okay.
I'm saying for those who saw it, you know the big problem they found towards the end of Good Place, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Like, that's the way you're supposed to understand that phrase, is like, you can't do things and not have it tie into a bigger system, right?
That and you can't like consume the ethical version, and that solves the conundrum. The same way that like you can't go by the like.
Yes,
being vegan is I think the morally better choice. I'm not going to lecture people on what to do, but that doesn't mean that when I buy an Impossible Burger, I am doing activism by doing that.
Yes, we actually had this whole conversation earlier. I was like, this is so off track of what we're talking about, the black pill stuff, but I was being like, I'm going to ask all of you just really quick, is being vegan direct action?
No.
Okay, but why?
But direct action
what you
doesn't
do,
just
I
mean
guess.
doing an action.
Yeah.
So like that's what I mean. Like when people say
direct action is when people organize to directly resist the systems that are hurting them or their communities or the planet or
okay, but
other people.
Can't that also be? By the way, I have no skin in this game. I'm going to be vegan regardless. It's not going to change my you know, I've been vegan for like 15 years or something. It's more of like whenever you talk, it's so common when you talk to people that are like trying to urge people to do things. They're like, well, what can I do? They're like, direct action, mutual aid. And they say those two. Like, organize, direct action, mutual aid. It's like, what is direct action?
A really common counter argument people make against veganism is like, but the cow gets killed anyway, right?
Yeah.
So when you go and chain yourself to a digger, the tree does not get cut down. And that's why you chaining yourself to a digger is direct action.
Yeah, like if you
go...
It's
like indirect action. That's the point. Like, you're trying to affect market forces and therefore like change the demand and supply and demand relationship. It's indirect by definition. Yeah. I wanted to mention like the thing about like getting burned out is like it's not.
Before we get back on topic, can I just before we discuss the thing we're meant to discuss, can I just one more bit about the derail?
Yes.
It just in regards to direct action, I've wanted to get this off my chest for a long time, but I was once watching a stream where it was like I can't remember somebody, but they were debating a lib, and the person claimed that canvassing for a political party was direct action.
I was just talking about this earlier. I'm like, I
said,
bet you.
No, it's activism. I'm not saying this from like a moral perspective that what you're doing is not useful. What I'm saying is it's definition.
Yeah,
and they were like,
it's not that thing.
And I remember they said to me, "Okay, well, you can be the most morally, ideologically pure person in the gas chamber."
Yeah,
and it was like,
Jesus Christ,
that is such a fucking escalation. Just from like a
people need to chill. Term. People need to chill.
Yeah.
How can you be all like take that energy and put it into something productive? Don't be like, I'm knocking on doors and my energy is now spent making Holocaust analogies. Like you're not that energy. You're like vote blue no matter who, or else it's basically Holocaust stuff.
That's exactly the thing I was going to bring up, right? So I don't think it is people being like, I need to avoid burnout, so I'm just going to chill out all the time. I think it's that like people do put in effort, get burned out, and then take breaks, and that's fine. That's for each person, however healthy you're being. Please try and be healthy. Please try and take care of yourself. But the things they're putting their effort into are like A dude online made a hypothetical about Nazis, which was the most asinine shit I've ever heard in my life, and I need to go back to bed now. Like that effort, that was wasted effort. Your time and energy was wasted there. You could have literally been like out like helping someone resist eviction. Like I think it's next episode. I forget the schedule right. No, it's 2 weeks from now. We'll literally do shit with the renters union. You can learn how to resist evictions, right? That's some shit you could be doing. Instead you're just like getting mad as fuck about some guy who doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
Oh gosh.
This literally doesn't matter.
Twitter. What a place. What a place to be.
with the real battles of war.
I want to make sure that before we move on, I hope if we're done with the derail, I'm totally fine if we're not. But if we're done with the derail, I would like to take a moment to define black pill, because I had someone in the chat ask, and I'm like, I'm sure there's people that aren't extraordinarily online that don't know these kind of like terms. And also, I think it's just always good to make sure we're all on the same page.
All people have as much brainworms as me.
Yes, exactly as many. And if they're not, they're cringe. More brainworms cringe, less cringe. You're perfect.
I'm gonna duck out for 5 minutes and shake on my cat.
And I was
okay.
There is no worse thing on earth than being cringed, is there? Like, think of
true. If my time isn't online.
Global warming is because of the cringe emissions. Just emissions of cringe.
So Bill Gates could actually single-handedly stop global warming by just being less cringe.
Don't be cringe.
So the Matrix, a good movie according to some people, according to others, not as good as The Matrix Reloaded. In The Matrix, there was a good face, Mildred. Okay, there's the red pill and the blue pill, right? And the red pill as a metaphor, which in the movie is the thing that makes you wake up from the simulation, the lie that you're living, it was co-opted by a bunch of bad people who suck. Among them, incels, and their metaphor of the red pill was
I words. Twitch does not allow us to use that term. It's a hate speech.
It's a hate word. That's
no
right.
Fucking way.
A very hateful word, Sophie. I can't believe you would,
I apologize.
I can't believe you would group these misogynist terrorists.
This is like such bizarre culture shock. Like,
by the way, whore is slut, bitch, cunt. None of these words are considered hate speech, but don't say we call it the I word or the involuntary celibates.
We're going to call them gamers.
Okay.
Yeah,
gamers.
Term. Actually, Mildred, you could call them what they actually are, which is misogynistic wannabe terrorists.
There you go.
I said that, but faster.
Oh, you did. That's true.
So the gamers use this metaphor of the red pill to mean waking up to the truth about reality, which could be a good way to use the metaphor if you were right about what reality is. But the reality that they thought you were waking up to is the realization that minorities and feminists control everything, and some of them
and hypergamy and
some of them
like
it's also the Jews. Some of them, you go a bit further, you find out it's the Jews. So then there's the red pill, right? Finding out that truth. And then there's the blue pill, going back to sleep. And then the incel community. Sorry, shit, fuck. Oh my god, this is wild. Not being able to say this word. I am losing my mind already.
It's really fucked. It's
really fucked. And you wonder how I keep it together every day. I don't at all.
I understand you yelling on stream
now
so much
you
more
understand.
Now
you
I get
understand
it.
my
This
life.
is insane.
You understand.
Okay. The gamer community invented an additional pill that is not in the Matrix called the black pill, which is when you've been going around unable to get dates because you're a gamer for too long, and you just accept there is no hope. It will never improve. You can never change anything, either interpersonally or societally, and you should just give up and die. What a lot of these gamers
lie down and rot, basically.
I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
Gamers take this as either they should die by suicide or die in a blaze of glory doing a fascist terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We mean not cool, by the way, for people who don't understand.
Yeah, it's like the school shooter ideology, right?
The black pill, however, has been adopted as a more broadly used metaphor for just giving up on hope in general. We aren't talking about the gamer black pill.
No.
We're talking about the leftist black pill, which is that many leftists feel arguably fair, some degree fairly, like everything is very, very, very fucked, and it's going to be really hard to make it better. But I don't think it is actually going to be. So that's what we're here for today, right? Literally, like, the black pill is it's going to be impossible for it to get any better. It cannot improve, or it's going to be an insurmountable effort for it to improve. Rocking some Climate Leviathan recommendations again. In Climate Leviathan, they repeatedly use the phrase a revolution of mythic proportions is like what somebody assessed would have to be done to like stop climate change, end capitalism, get us to a sustainable kind of planet where we're not living under horrifying authoritarian rule while billions of people die to the effects of climate change. So a revolution of mythic proportions. There's a phrase to introduce to the vocabulary of the show. We're going to have to keep saying it throughout the show from now on. Week 3 is the first appearance on record.
Nice.
That's what we're reporting on. There we go. I'm doing great with my Twitch speak today.
Very proud of you.
We touched on this on the first episode, didn't we? I think very briefly, because I think a lot of us have been excited about this stream in particular.
Yeah.
How important it is, because of course, like, a happy comrade is, gonna be able to do a lot more, right? And also it's just nicer to be happy. And like, I think we spoke about how it was the Mark Fisher thing. Like, what's the book that he wrote?
Capitalist Realism.
Capitalist Realism. There it is.
To be clear about this, because I'm always shit talking it when it comes up on stream. Is a great book.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, there's lots to talk shit about, but it's still like a really good book with some great concepts.
And the crucial quote from Capitalist Realism is, "It is easier for people to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism." Yeah. And the point that I've made before, and I'll make it try to concisely again here, is a lot of people read that and did not go, yes, that is a delusion I suffer from and I should challenge in myself and overcome, but instead came away from it and went,
it must be more likely then, because it's easier to imagine.
Can only imagine the end of the world and not the end of capitalism. So yeah, that is true. And then there's like a secondary logic where people go, where they don't even think about themselves. They just go, if everyone can only imagine the end of the world and not the end of capitalism, that's proof that it is fucked, because no one's going to do anything about it. So it doesn't matter what I believe, because even if I believed it was fine or good or going to be chill, they all aren't going to do anything about it, and it does require work.
Have you ever heard of the term depressive realism?
Yes, I bring it up a lot actually when I'm discussing this subject. Yeah.
So there's a famous experiment that was conducted to test the hypothesis of depressive realism, where they found that
quickly for chat, depressive realism.
Depressive realism is the idea that people who suffer from depression, in fact, have a more accurate view of the world.
They could guess the jelly beans in the jar better than you.
Exactly. Yeah. And the experiment that they ran, they had a light switch and a light that would just turn on and off randomly. And they asked people, turn on the light. And people who did not suffer from depression would stick with it for a while, and they thought they could figure out the pattern and get it to work. Whereas people with depression realized quite quickly that they had no control over it. And so the people who ran this study concluded, therefore, that depressive realism is correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, depressive realism is way better at predicting depressing answers to questions.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about capitalism. Realism.
If you've ever tried to just like, I don't know, do a puzzle game with someone who's suffering from really serious depression, they give up pretty quickly on that shit. I'll flip this around here to be clear. When I'm really depressed, I give up really quickly on shit that does have answers that you can find. And when I'm not really depressed, I go find the answers.
And like, are we gonna do the thing where we ask chat who is
let's do it. I think we're still pretty near the start of the stream. I think it's important. Chat, can you give us a 1 if you think that capitalism can be stopped, and a 0 if you think capitalism cannot be stopped and we're all going to fucking die?
Well, we're all going to die.
We are going to die.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry if anyone thought otherwise.
Yeah.
Oh, here come the zeros.
Okay, this is actually a surprising amount of ones. Like pretty impressive actually.
Good job of giving people
it's
hope
also
already.
sample bias. Let's be
Yeah.
clear.
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
that
The way that we framed it is like, do you agree with our cool position, or you?
Yeah.
I was-
Are you
Loser.
awesome or are you
Yeah.
not?
just
so
about to say
awesome?
that. Just
Yeah,
about
yeah.
to say that. Yeah, because we've obviously been talking about how this is a bad thing, chat, and you shouldn't be doing this, right?
That's why we should
yeah.
have done it as soon as we opened the show. But then Nicole put us on chat. Like,
It's always my
the-
fault, isn't it?
oh yeah, that's
Classic.
why. Yeah, I just wanted to bring some misogyny in here. I think that's the important thing.
What the stream's been lacking,
Yeah,
let's
Nicole
face
doesn't
it.
get enough of that. Yeah.
That's gonna bring in the views, that's gonna get the clout. Come on.
Yeah, someone clip this. This is the new viral thing.
Put it on live stream fails, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean I'm glad, frankly, like if many of our audience do feel that way, but like also plenty of people did put zeros, and like it is a broad thing that is in our spaces and all over the place now, right? Yeah. I think one thing, like, maybe I'm gonna keep on bringing out shit from Climate Leviathan because I find it to be genuinely one of the most the best books for giving you hope, which is kind of ironic because it's like a pretty good appraisal of how bad the climate is, but it's also like you also read it and you're like, nah, we can fix that. But like one of the things I think is really striking that they get across really early in Climate Leviathan is the idea that they are they're not failing to manage climate change. They are managing climate change exactly as they intend to, right? Neoliberal Western governments are absolutely managing climate change exactly to plan. Yeah, but I don't know. So basically, like, they break down this model that there are kind of four. I've been saying it's like the political compass that we'll need for the future, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
There are four different kind of aspirations people have politically for like the future of the planet. And actually, Nicole, I'll drop this in the chat for you to put up on the screen.
Oh, gosh.
But basically, the 2x2 grid.
I've been working this whole time in the other overlay, trying to like squint see. Might as well just do it. I'll do it live. Fine. All right, this
You're doing
is what we're
great,
dealing with.
by the way. You're doing.
We have Sophie and then
phenomenally.
anonymous people with no names, no chat. But let's
You know
let's
what?
go for it.
That's anarchism. That's the final.
There we go. We
Is
got
it-
it.
Final
Anarchism turned
bit.
out to just be
How about
chaos
this?
all the time.
Does this look good? This is good, right? This is good. This isn't bad.
All right, I'll drop it in Shadowy Cabal, and you can get it up on there.
We should post it in the
Basically,
chat too, because I always have that open for other people to see if you really want to.
It's just an image, so I don't.
Oh,
it's not a
okay,
link.
gotcha. Okay.
So it's this 2x2 grid, right? And it's planetary sovereignty and anti-planetary sovereignty, capitalist and non-capitalist. And what they're trying to communicate here is that plan I was describing, like they are managing climate change exactly as they intend to, that's Climate Leviathan, as in all the capitalist countries that currently have all of the power like want to establish a sustainable capitalism that they can keep doing. If you're laughing at the word, like the phrase sustainable capitalism, don't worry, it's very much also my thought on the matter. Yes, that's very silly.
If you view sustainable as like sustainable for the planet, yeah, it's laughable.
Right, yeah.
But sustainable for capitalism is a different thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If
I did
it's
see someone
sustainable-
say something about like, is there like a better capitalism or something like that, or is like, do we have to end it to make it better or something like that? And I just think that like the idea, like capitalism is not something that like, you know, it's like an infinite growth thing or whatever like that. There's no scenario that we can kind of tame it and it's still capitalism.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. So
there's even if you had markets and trade and money, those things aren't capitalism. Like the fundament, if you have markets and trade and money under a government which works for the people, that's socialism. Like the power relation in society fundamentally shifting to Mildred's squinting at my bad.
I squinted. I squinted too, and I don't get no credit for it.
I'm trying to talk about a fringe example here. I'm not trying to say.
I want to make sure everyone knows I squinted as well. I actually had this discussion earlier today with like socialism, what it is, and socialism is like the way that we use the word as it applies to like the capitalist hell world we live in and things that we do within it. I don't think that markets are ever socialist, but I do think that there are, if we're doing, say, it's something, say, like, I don't think Medicare for All you could call it a market per se, but something like Medicare for All, if you have Medicare for All in your system, it doesn't make all of a sudden your system is now a socialism. But I think it is in the context of capitalism, and Mildred, let me know what you think of this, because I've been, I think it is a socialist effort within the context of capitalism, but I don't think it makes it socialism, and I would never call that socialism.
No, but like, you know, if the standard is that we can't do anything socialistly as long as capitalism exists, then how the fuck are we going to overturn capitalism?
Oh, this is all.
I completely agree with that. I was trying to describe a hypothetical in which like a government exists within global capitalism, and there's still markets and trade and shit. Like, the power relation is different. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think, and where I bristled, and I have to say it because otherwise they take away my anarchism license. Is and the government issues those licenses.
They do,
The anarchist government.
To my view, and it comes down to what the word government means here, but the systems of the state as it exists and capitalism are mutually self-enforcing and self-replicating phenomenon. So the idea that like we can leverage either, I think, and use it on behalf of the people it was designed to oppress is, I think,
Sophie, in short,
So
you can't just say things casually around a group of people on the left. You can't just throw things out there. We're gonna stop you. We're gonna derail you. We're gonna make you feel bad.
I don't theory nonsense. Honestly, I
I
actually agree about this. I was just trying to like.
I know. But if I didn't say it, then it's all I would hear about.
They do take your anarchist license away.
The sad part about these things, though, the sad part about it, Sophie, is like, I know Mildred is making jokes, but honestly, there are so many people that do take advantage of some definitions or some vagaries that they're like, okay, well then that means that now I need to undermine every single communist because now they're tanky or they're something. And now if you've noticed, there's like an entire all the so-called social. I know, but I want to say for everyone else because other people are watching. Because this is important. There are people that are trying to co-opt these like socialism like labels, and all of their energy is spent toward undermining people like you and me based on the vagaries of socialism is vaguely this or some sort of, we know what you mean, but also now it's out there and people are gonna be like, see, now I can take advantage of this. And I wish this wasn't the world that we live in. It's ridiculous.
Sometimes you got
decided to have, and that's proof that Mildred is actually CIA who is here to derail us. So I will now carry on describing the 2x2 grid.
If I could just,
no,
it's the other point I wanted to make was this like precisely this that contention should not get in the way of actually doing things. And I think if you are like waiting for that ideological purity, you're going to be waiting forever.
A long time.
So, like,
absolutely.
I wanted to at once, and kind of everybody, I was like, I see what you're doing, you sectarian asshole. You're just tearing everybody down, and you're going to go on a rant about tankies and like, no, that was not my intent. My intent was, this was not my intent.
You got to do a bit of infighting to stop the infighting. That's
true.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I hate that word, infighting. Infighting is as trash as, at this point it says trash. Leftist infighting, the phrase is as trash as no ethical consumption under capitalism.
It is, yes, thank you. Yes.
I'm gonna go sicko mode in 10 seconds.
All right, go ahead, Sophie.
We if we can't disagree on things, then it's not meaningful consensus. I think.
Yes. We need to build consensus. That's the way that, yes, of course.
We're all in agreement. This is just a circle jerk. Echo chamber.
Yes.
So this 2x2 grid is maybe the way, like, maybe chuck out your political compass, it's garbage. get this bad boy going on. Climate Leviathan is the plan that neoliberal capitalist countries have tried to be enforcing. Shit like COP26, right, that just happened in Glasgow. We all think that they didn't manage to do anything and shit like this. We should actually be incredibly skeptical of the idea that like a bunch of governments are like getting together to be like, we are going to control how climate change is handled together.
Yeah.
We have become so dependent on the state and so completely like brainwashed by its propaganda that we now I'm having my anarchist moment, that we think that like the state is going to manage climate change and solve climate change, whereas realistically, like if every state dissolved into even just like horrible war right now, climate change would be over because it's all of the states that are like doing the climate change. So like Climate Leviathan, like I said, is striving for this idea of like a sustainable world capitalism. That's why it's in the Planetary Sovereignty column, right? The idea that like there would be one system that would control the world. I don't want to come across as a conspiracist here. I'm not saying that it would control everything about everywhere on the world with massive like Orwellian big brother authoritarian policies, but authoritarian policy would be a huge part of it. And these intergovernmental bodies do aim to say who can emit, like, you know, put out carbon emissions and when and how much, right? Like genuinely there are already these big calculations of like fair share according to population size and how developed the country are and shit like this. And although countries like China and India are actually like in the negative of their fair share according to these calculations, because they're literally like doing infinitely more to tackle climate change than the US, for example, like still all these conversations focus around like punishing them and controlling them and insisting how they do their emissions.
Not merely that, but like the reason they're making those emissions in the first place is to produce things for the global north.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
They're not keeping the fruits of
Yeah.
that pollution that goes to us, and then we're like,
Exactly.
but you were shitty when you made it. So
Absolutely, and that kind of ties back into what we were saying earlier about the you know, like could there be a better capitalist or more socialist capitalism or whatever? When you see like there's a lot of these like democratic socialist countries, like, you know, everyone's like, oh, look at this random Scandinavian company and they do this and they do that, and then you look at how they have built, you know, like the system that they have in place is like all built on the exploitation of the imperial periphery. You know, it's kind of like like empire has built like a really nice state for, you know, the people in their you know, in their country or whatever like that, but it all kind of like comes back to yeah, you know, like exploitation of the imperial periphery, the global south, all that kind of stuff like that, and whether it's production, extraction, whatever, you know.
Yeah, to get across the inverse of the point that I was trying to make badly before that led to a huge derail. I've been saying for a while that genuinely, like a whole bunch of European countries, Scandinavian countries, even America, could transition to SOCDEM or even what by some standards would be called a socialist state without changing the global relationship of power, right? It would still be extracting and looting like resources, power, like labor and wealth from the imperial periphery, and using exactly that to like create a higher standard of living for people within the imperial core. Honestly, I do think that's a huge part of the plan for Climate Leviathan. So like if right now you're a whito like me in the imperial core and you're like, hey, higher standard of living, hey, free healthcare and shit, yeah, okay, fuck all the other people, right? Like there are genuinely people who will be calling themselves leftists, advocating for reforms only in their country, who are pushing really, really hard on this shit, who are like, yeah, I want communism, a good American communism, patriotic American communism, right? And it's literally like, there is no idea of like changing America's relationship to the rest of the world. There's no idea of changing Europe's relationship to the rest of the world. And any suggestions that should be done are framed as like Malthusianism and eugenics and evil genocidal projects by these same people who just literally want to have like socialism in their country only. Yeah, you know. I wanted to get that point across because I'm just trying to say like things some people at least would call socialism or even communism could like sit within this shit while fucking the rest of the world, and that's absolutely within Climate Leviathan. So like our old conception of like left, right, authoritarian, libertarian is just like doesn't actually mesh with what the world is trying to do in the slightest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like internationalism is kind of like, even for like thinkers like, well, I always feel like I'm bringing up Fanon, but Fanon talks about like like colonized people building like a national identity, like a national culture to kind of like combat combat their colonizers or whatever, but it always ends with internationalism, like this is a goal, and that's what you kind of have to like I think this is the trap that a lot of these like patriotic communists or whatever fall into or whatever like that, is like it's something that Fanon talked about a lot in issues of national identity and stuff. It's like internationalism has to be the end goal, and I mean, and it's something like I've seen a lot in like a lot of Maori movements historically and contemporary, where it's like people often think like, oh, these groups are just trying to do their thing just for their people, and then when you actually look at what everyone's saying and the theory and everything, and it's always talking about like like kind of identifying and kind of like talking to Pākehā, to like white people, Tohu, foreigners, whatever, the ways that their working class struggles intersect with ours, and like how it's like this bigger picture sort of thing like that, and it's like and it's all about kind of building a better world as opposed to like a better state for us or whatever.
Right.
Exactly. One thing, what was that word you used for non-Maori people?
Pākehā. So it's like
so I've never heard it before, but I've decided now it's a slur, and
you actually can't say that.
Yeah.
Can't say the
This
P word on
stream will
Twitch,
now be
Jen.
banned because
like that's legitimately a thing though. Like
I'm not
it
surprised.
it basically just means it was like there's Maori, and then there was like Pākehā, which means like it's like defining them as like like other people, whereas because Maori literally means like us, like normal kind of like like the
Normal,
people that we are,
normal people,
whatever.
Not very
basically. Or like
inclusive.
normal in relation to us, sort of thing,
Yeah.
and then Pākehā means like other or whatever. But there's all these like conspiracy theories that it actually means like white pigs and stuff like that, or
So
there's one
what
of
if
them,
it is?
that means like turnip slapper is another one. Yeah. There's like
I
all
wanted to
kinds of
make
great
the
stuff.
joke because I knew that if I didn't, or if someone didn't, then the patriotic socialists, when they respond to this stream, will say it legit.
Right.
They will. Yeah, they will.
The chat is saying
Yeah.
Palangi is a slur one. That's actually the Samoan word that means basically the same thing as Pākehā. It's like it's not a Maori word. It's Samoan, and it's not a slur either. But I mean, you can use any of these words with the right tone, and you can make someone think it's slurs.
It actually means
like,
colonizer. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, that was.
Yeah.
Apologies,
so-
Sophie. I don't really know how to better go about this type of conversation with like.
That's okay. I'm just trying to educate on like what.
Oh, I
Climate Leviathan
understand, and I'm extremely yes. This is a kind of a miserable. It's one of those miserable kind of like errands at this point to have to be like, well, so I'm sorry that we derailed you so hard.
This is why the CIA gives me the big bucks. I throw a little chaos.
And I don't
This
want.
is why you're on the
want,
lower pay grade, Bad Bunny. That's right. Not just
If Mildred leaves the stream losing his anarchist card, it's not going to look good for our image, and we're never going to get anyone else on the show. So I'm going to make sure that our guests are treated well.
Ultimately, like if we just have a fun and entertaining chat, that's fine. But like, there's some stuff.
We got shit to do.
The thing I don't want to happen for this stream is for us to build socialism, but not my personal brand.
Right. Good point.
Socialism, but not centered around you. Got it.
So the other three worlds the other three futures that they outline in Climate Leviathan. Could you put that back on?
Oh yeah,
Nicole?
Yeah.
The other three futures that they outline in Climate Leviathan and the 2x2 grid are called Climate Behemoth, Climate Mao, and Climate X. Climate Behemoth is the quickest way I could say this is it's fascism. But that's not really accurate because a lot of Climate Leviathan involves like massive authoritarian policies and shit. All the stuff I was reading out at the start of the stream, all of the very fascist policies in the UK totally fit into Climate Leviathan. Totally not like what Climate Behemoth is about just like locking down and being like, I'm getting all the shit in for me, fuck everybody else, right? It's not a sustainable system at all. Even more than capitalism isn't a sustainable system. Like, we could imagine a kind of capitalism that's just like turning the world into just like a barren desert while it keeps like an increasingly smaller number of people alive that they would technically call like sustainable. Behemoth, on the other hand, is just like Trump level, like absolute mush brain, just like, I'm gonna just like, oh my god, shiny coins, give them to me and I will kill everyone who tries to stop me. And that's why it's in the anti-planetary sovereignty column, because it's such a like, it's often such an extremely nationalist thing that it breaks down the kinds of like cooperations that countries would need to enforce Climate Leviathan. Trump is a great example. He literally pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Accords, right? He literally, because he was such a nationalist, he literally pulled them out and like, yeah. Sorry, Mule, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say it's kind of like that Tenpenny guy in Fallout 3, right?
Yeah. That's a great example.
Right now, our stream is again catering to gamers.
Well, you have to look. We have to pull some of them to the left.
Yeah, I mean, we
push
already
them
said
left. Push the gamers left.
Push them left.
We've got a couple of transgenders. We've got someone said the P word already. Like it's we're really turning off the gamers.
The P word. Right. Oh gosh. my people's history. Oh. With that word, don't even. I can't. I'm sorry.
Then there's planetary sovereignty. So as in, again, a one body governing everything, right? But non-capitalist, climate Mao. If we look at like changes that, again, China isn't communist, but like the kind of there are kinds of changes that China is putting in place now, where it is doing things to try and combat climate change infinitely more than what the US is doing, where it's creating protected regions, it's having huge solar and wind farms. They banned crypto because they know it's fucking evil, shit like this, right? Which like is evil and authoritarian, and it's also like, you know, kind of good. But like the flip side of it would be like, we don't want to live under one planetary sovereignty. We don't want to live under one fucking well, I don't, certainly, as an anarchist. This is my, again, anarchist moment, but like, I don't want to live under one big state with infinite power. No. One of the terrifying sides of planetary sovereignty is that if one governing body controls the whole world, and it does it for the sake of stopping climate change, people will have it deeply ingrained in their minds that any attempt to end that situation will bring back climate change and kill us all. So even like a communist one that many people think is doing many good things can't be criticized under any circumstances, because if we don't have that,
like a crime against the planet.
Right, exactly. And then Climate X is the final one, and obviously it's where I've kind of been leading, you know, and where the book is kind of leading us towards. We want to have this one because it doesn't involve just billions of people dying, or as many billions of people dying as, you know, besides the ones who already are gonna, because of all the shit. But the book doesn't really actually outline like the like concrete ideas of what that's going to be, and that's why it's called Climate X. It's kind of a mystery. It's kind of like it's up for us to determine between us. And this is the point I was trying to bring the conversation to, and I'm so tired.
You did a phenomenal job, Sophie. Well done.
That this book talks about everything but a clear vision of what things are actually going to be. And yet I've derived enormous hope from this book, because like it's talked through all of the possible problems, all of the existing, not just possible, but like existing fucking awful shit going on, and doesn't tell us like where we're going to go. And yet still, like, I often say that like the best things we can do are present visions of the future. I loved Mildred's video, the Slime World. Like, I want to see more people do shit like that. It's literally going to be the homework this week, is for people to go and look around and imagine a better world. But like, even without doing that, I think, you know, this drives home my point that like educating yourself about the problem can on its own give you hope.
I think
so
that
imagining a better world, crypto land. I still haven't watched all that shit, but yeah, no, but like the imagining a better world, I think is something that like that was like kind of core when we were talking about starting up the stream, right? Like the actual you know, like what's the end goal? Like what are we working towards here? And I mean we probably all have like different ideas of, you know, like where that goes, but as like, you know, like a broadly left project or whatever, I think we're probably heading in the same direction. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, you know, looking around the round table here that we're all heading in like roughly the same direction.
It's one of the wild things, right? That like whenever I don't know if chat knows this, but I have a Twitter. This is my dark my dark reveal. I have a Twitter. I have tweeted. Therefore, you can look at any one of my tweets from any time, and they are all evil. But one of the tweets that I made that made people very, very mad was when I said that we should have solidarity with Marxist-Leninists and people who think that people consider like authoritarian communists, because we have basically the same ideology with some disagreements, and people can have their opinions about that. But you
want a spicier version of that? You want to truly make people mad?
Wait,
amateur
chat,
hour. Watch
chat, prepare yourselves. Everyone in chat.
They will.
I want to see Monkadubs in the chat.
I want to see a bunch of people that are prepared. Little chatters, little pog champs that are prepared. Okay, let's go.
Get ready.
Pulling my ass out of the fire right now. None of you come after me anymore. It's all on them now.
That image of like the soldier in front of the sleeping child with like the arrows, that's me right now.
I'm just sleeping peacefully now.
Not only do we have to have solidarity with other tendencies, we have to learn to be more patient with liberals.
That's
because and everyone I can feel everyone's buttholes tensing up right now because they think I'm going to say that we should agree with liberals. No,
I just always do that. When I'm streaming, just
tense butthole 24/7. You gotta have it.
My thinking is liberalism, as I is I've often framed it as a mind prison.
Yes,
as a project that is designed to limit the imagination of other people's.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we can at once recognize that there is a global media hegemony pushing towards one ideology, and then get mad at them that they have not yet escaped that ideology.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, there's like time, you know, like obviously, like, you know, like we were all at one point we were all probably pretty libby or, you know, like whatever. And,
I've always had the right takes. I just want to let everyone know.
I didn't know that about you.
Yes.
Famously always had the right takes. Thank you. Some of us are built different. You know, I do yoga, I am vegan, you know, it's just some things to think about. Anyways, go on, please.
Absolutely.
Even the way that like we will use like, oh, that's some liberal shit as like therefore you're not a real leftist. But like you have to recognize that like you are going to spend the rest of your life undoing the brainwashing you have received under like liberal power. Like that process is not yet complete, I promise you.
I was just saying earlier today, like we really need to reconceptualize the way that we think of ideologies, because we definitely think of people as having an ideology and then they're like, that's the thing they believe in. There's the ideology in your head that you believe in, whatever you call it, right? Your view of what a perfect world would look like, and you hope that your actions and thoughts connect with that. There are also all the ideologies that have been put in your head throughout your fucking life, right? Like all that fucking capitalist liberal propaganda is still in there, and when you're not questioning it, your thoughts just fit really neatly and just snugly, just really tight and snugly comfy in with that propaganda because it's there and you're not challenging it, right? Like no, I was actually interviewing two members from the Common Humanity Collective for an organizing interview just before the stream, and like one of the questions I asked them was like, I know that many people in my audience, when they're watching this interview, are gonna hate the idea of working with people who don't see eye to eye with them about what the perfect world should look like. What would you say? And they had a great answer, which was just like, the work is what gives you hope. The work is what teaches you the politics. The work is what like brings you towards like actually agreeing about and moving forward in the same direction. And to be clear, the work that they do is like they're a mutual aid network. We've talked so much on this show about mutual aid already. They are a real existing one, and they're freely happy to just be like, yeah, we have all sorts of leftist tendencies and a ton of libs as well, all just hanging out together. And mostly the libs, after giving people things they need for a little while, just start to go, so tell me more about this socialism. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, that's the fucking thing that happens.
A thing that you have to remember as well about, like, specifically the doom pill, the black pill, is that when a lot of people get black pilled about leftism, they tend to slide back into putting their faith in electoral politics. And like, liberal sort of like electoral politics and stuff like that. So if people are there who've like thought about something like this and gone, huh, that sounds like a great idea, and then gone, oh wait, it's impossible, like immediately, because that's what fucking the media tells you, and literally every sort of example of communism that capitalism likes to bring up to shit on it, then you are going to just sit there and oh, I love Joe Biden, let's go back to brunch kind of ideas, until someone comes to you and says, you know what, like, it is possible. Like, there's loads of things that you can do to make this happen. And actually, no, it doesn't just happen overnight. And it's because of capitalism and consumerism that you want it to happen overnight. And you have to free yourself from that mindset kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, there's like so many people, just, like average liberal people, that think that what they are doing, like voting blue, whatever, is like, they think that's
direct action. You mean
that's the good fight, right? Like that's
what we call direct action. Thank you, Mildred.
Yeah, doing direct action. Yeah, direct action and the polls.
And voting for Bernie is the revolution.
Resisting.
Yeah, exactly. Like they think that was it. Like they think that was it. I mean, that's like. And it's also like the whole thing, like back to the capitalist realism thing, the whole idea of capitalism making space for anti-capitalism. Like people will adopt the consumer identity of the, like the socialist democrat or something like that, and they'll be convinced that they're doing. It's like you look at like there's all these like little Twitter cults that pop up around Democratic candidates and stuff, and like these people are so convinced that what they are doing is a real fight. Like.
The K
a lot with Bernie, like people like sabotaging other candidates and stuff, and they're like, this is the battle, this is the war that we're fighting, And I think that there's a lot of people like that aren't going to get swayed by like appeals over the internet or something like that. It's like, it's the community stuff where they see like, oh wait, like those people are actually doing something, but like I thought we were doing the thing, It's kind of like I've seen that a lot in IRL kind of situations, where it's like these people that think that they're doing the most, and then they'll see, like we see like things like Iamata and Putiki and stuff like that, and then just like, wait, like I thought we were the good team, but those guys are doing a lot of good work over there.
I campaigned for Jacinda, but that makes me good.
Exactly. Stuff like that. Like,
these people don't like Jacinda. What?
Yeah. What's going on? And I think I think that's like there's a lot of power there, and like actually just being seen to be doing things, and then people be like, wait, what? Like, but you're communists or you're socialists, you're anarchists or whatever, like, So yeah.